Hi folks, and welcome back to the Travels of Red Rover. This week we are at Sylvan Lake, the second of our series on the Black Hills. We spend 2 days here and have a lovely time shooting reflections on this beautiful lake. Good morning folks. So Corinne and I are out at Sylvan Lake in Custer State Park. And this morning we're going to go try to do some reflection photography, but it's already getting breezy. So I suspect this might be a picture of a lake with some rocks and hopefully a little bit of interest in the sky.
Gorgeous morning, but we have some clouds rolling in, and I think we missed the best light opportunity. It was maybe just half an hour before we got here, because now there's a sun quite hidden by a cloud just to our east. But we're doing the best we can, and we'll see what kind of images we can get. Lots of ripples on the lake from some breezes that are picking up. I'm using a 10-stop filter to really slow down my exposure, try and enhance the reflection as best I can. I've set up with a very much a lake scene with the rocks in the distance, zoomed in quite a bit so that I'm enhancing the rocks and getting less of the other tree-lined shore. One of the things with the 10-stop filter is it tends to add quite a lot of blue hue to my picture. So I've pushed up my white balance into the 6,000 range to compensate for that blue cast. Well, the lights come out. It's a little later in the morning, so the light is pretty intense when it shows up. I switched over to a little stopper, which is a 6-stop solid filter, and then I added a 2-stop graduated to balance out the sky and the water, so I didn't have my sky showing up as too bright when I was getting my image. So we have a nice little cloud bank over there, adding some interest to the picture, and just enough filter on here that it gets a bit more reflection.
So Corinne and I had a lovely morning photographing Sylvan Lake. The light now is starting to get a little bit too harsh, and the clouds are getting a little bit too diffuse to be really interesting. So we're packing up and heading to our next spot. But a couple thoughts before we leave. One of the thoughts before we leave is that you want to make sure that when you're taking a shot like this where you want to get some reflection, that you don't put a polarizer on the front of your camera. If you put a polarizer on, it'll go through the water and see the bottom of the lake, and you won't really get as good a reflection. So just remember that as a kind of a tip. One of the other things that we noticed this morning is the change between getting a little bit of light, interesting light on the rocks, and the rocks really becoming very, very intense, almost too contrasty and overexposed, is very, very short. So the perfect time was maybe only 10 or 15 minutes at max. And now though still pretty to look at, much more difficult to photograph. So just keep those things in mind in terms of the time you're going to show up for a shot, and watching that light and making sure that you're in the sweet spot when the light is lighting up the rocks, giving you a little bit of contrast, but doesn't become harsh.
Morning, folks.
Good morning.
We're here at Sylvan Lake.
Again?
In Custer State Park again.
Part
2. We didn't like how late we got here the other day. And we thought, well, if we got here a little bit earlier, we might be able to get when the sun's just hitting those rocks on the far shore. And maybe it would be a little less windy.
And it definitely is a little less windy this morning. In fact, we got some beautiful mist flowing across the lake that we've been trying to photograph. And beautiful, dark blue hour morning photograph reflection this morning. So 2 down. Now we're just waiting for the light to come up a little bit more so we can get the rocks lit a little better.
And anything special with your camera setup, Shawn?
Not really. I'm having to use a 3-stop filter to bring the sky down so that the sky and the lake have the same kind of rich blue color. But otherwise, not too much. The white balance is I've brought down to about 5500. For my camera, that starts giving things a bit more of a blue feel to it, which is really what we're seeing this morning. But outside of that, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I got my 3-stop graduated filter on as well, so we have some similar camera setup. Well, let's see what kind of pictures we get with this session. Well, we're just starting to get light over on the distant rocks. The far left is very well lit and already showing some deep shadows. And to the right, the top of the shorter rock is starting to be pretty well lit. The larger rock further to the right is just getting a glimmer of light now. And the water is so still, it's perfect. Couldn't ask for a better for reflections. And we have just a little bit of wisp of cloud over the lake that's reflecting in the water. So conditions are really nice, and it's just a peaceful morning listening to the red-winged blackbirds sing in the reeds.
I've been shooting pano shots of this image this morning since the conditions are so beautiful. I wanted to give myself a little bit more real estate to actually be able to put the picture together, put the image together. By shooting pano, I get change my starting point to a portrait orientation, and that gives me more, lets me actually focus in a little tighter, but also still give me lots of room in the sky and the lake to catch the beautiful cloud reflection and then the clouds in the sky. Still using the 3-stop graduated filter, but otherwise just leveling the camera is the challenge, and once that's leveled, you can stitch these all together in Lightroom pretty easily. So I'm just working on that right now, and it's just such a beautiful morning to be doing this. The light is just starting to fill in on the rocks right now, so we're doing a little change of location. Corinne has now moved way over there.
Shawn set up over by a few tables on a grassy lawn, and I've decided to come over to a slightly different composition here. And where I'm working, we have a little bit more foreground interest, so I'm including some of these long grasses, and there's a bit of a log in the water here, so I've included those in my picture as well. It's far enough into the morning now that most of the rocks on the far shore are lit, around to the higher peak there. I'm just waiting for the last foreground rock just in front to light up, and it's just starting to get a little tip of light right now.
We are currently walking over to the other side. Corinne has a composition in mind.
But it might be too shadowed.
Well, the shots from this side of the lake turned out to be marginal at best. Also, the audio tended to fail on us a number of times here. So instead of showing you a bunch of video that is difficult to hear, we'll just put in a couple of the best attempts.
Well, we've had a great experience here in the Black Hills of South Dakota and enjoyed our opportunities to film some of this lovely area. It's been a bit of a mixed bag with the weather, but that's always what happens when you're out doing photography.
In fact, the adverse weather often improves the photography, at least at the beginning and the end, maybe not so much in the middle. Well, we sure hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give us a thumbs up.
And if you'd like to see more of our videos, we hope you'll consider subscribing. That'll help us out a lot, and we appreciate everyone who has subscribed.
And as always, if you hit that little bell button, you'll know when we release new videos.
And we love to hear from you or hear if you have questions. So put any comments or questions in the comment section below, and we'll do our best to respond as soon as possible.
Take care, and bye for now.
Bye for now.